Welcome to week 8 and the final weekly episode on the rolling restoration of my 1983 240D. You know, last week I talked about getting into this whole issue of doing the mechanical restoration, and I've started on that. Mostly it was coming up with a list and coming up with a game plan to finish this project. Now, I did mention something about loose steering play a couple weeks ago, and I was able to adjust out the play in the steering box because this steering box is fairly low mileage and it isn't all worn out. But you'll be interested to note, even though I got the play out of the steering box, I still have some play in the front end. And I remember the previous owner, when he sold me the car, he said, "Hey Kent, there's a funny noise up in the front end when I turn the car, you know, and I haven't been able to figure out what it was." But when I grabbed a hold of the front hub here and started giving it a shake, I knew I had a problem. Okay, listen closely when I do this. Can you hear that hollow thud sound? Kind of echoes through the whole front end. And that's what he was hearing. He couldn't really figure out what it was. Let's get behind this and take a closer look and see if we can spot the problem. I started by checking the idler arm here, and of course we checked all the tie rods. The boots look pretty good and the tie rod ends are tight, but as I moved over to the front hub, look at that right there. That's the problem. That's the lower ball joint. And this is kind of typical of these cars due to the age of the rubber. See, the rubber boot's all deteriorated. Well, once that happens, the boot cracks, water starts getting in there, then the grease is gone and the ball joint wears out. And that's what's making that clunking noise. And over here on the left side, it's the same situation. That lower ball joint is totally shot. And like I said, with this condition, I'm not going to take this car any long road trips until this is fixed. So upon inspecting the transmission and the engine, it looks pretty good. It's pretty clean up in there, you know, not really loaded with oil leaks. But when I come up to the front of the engine, you see the telltale signs of a front crank leak. So that seal right there is going to have to be replaced to eliminate this leak. But this is really the only oil leak I'm seeing on this engine. And you can look up in there too, and you can see that the motor mounts are collapsed. So those are going to have to be replaced too. And checking over the back end, you can see the axle boots look real tight. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with rear axles. Look at how clean and dry the rear differential is. I'll probably want to change that rear mount just because they get old, and that's what causes your rear end to sag. And looking at the shocks, I think the shocks have recently been replaced, so I may not have to worry about that. But moving forward, I'm going to change the flex discs. You know, even though they're not showing any major cracking, those are going to get changed. And when I change the flex disc, of course, I'm going to take a real close look at this center bearing carrier and make sure there's no problems there. I can see that the exhaust system doesn't look that bad. You know, you go on down there, I think I'm showing a little bit of rust, but it looks okay. I'm not going to worry about the exhaust system right now. But you look up here, we're going to change that flex disc and we're going to change the rear transmission mount. I know what some of you are thinking. How could this be the final episode in this rolling restoration series when I have all this other work to do? Well, let me explain. I've made an extensive list here. It includes everything I'm going to do in the engine compartment, all the things related to engine tuning. It'll also include, you know, going through all the fluid changes, replacing the flex disc, and doing anything in the back and the rear end that I need to do. Motor mounts are going to have to be replaced. And you know something? I've done videos on all of these things, probably at least 2 videos. So I didn't think it was worth it to just go on and show the same old thing again with white lightning here when I'm going to have to do pretty much all those common repairs that need to be done on these old Mercedes. So what I decided to do is I'm going to share with you this list, not in this video because some of you are just looking at this series out of curiosity, you're not repairing your Mercedes, but for any of you who own one of these old diesels, I'm going to share this complete list with you. Everything I'm going to complete on White Lightning that's mechanically related, except brakes. You know, we already talked about brakes last week. And I'll put that all below this video in the description. You're going to have to click show more. It's going to be a very long list. It'll be like a checklist. And after each item, motor mounts, okay, motor mounts, that's going to be a big one. Oil cooler lines, that's another one. I'll put links to the other videos and the kits that I've done on those specific repairs. If I'm talking about transmission fluid change and what kind of fluid to use, or rear end fluid change, or adding magnets to the car for magnet therapy, you know, all that will be included below, and you'll be able to read through that list at your own convenience. So rather than me standing here for the next 15 to 20 minutes, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. No, I'm going to just list it, I'm going to write it out and put it in the description below this video. Now you should know this isn't going to be the last video I do on the 240D. If I find a new thing I run into, something new I haven't done before, I will probably jump in and do a short video on it. But I find it's just not worth continuing to do these weekly episodes on this car when, you know, I've already done videos on everything else I have to do. So you can see, even if you get a really nice W123, there's a lot of things you have to do. Can you imagine dragging home something that's got 250,000 miles on it and the rear axles are worn out, the whole front end's worn out, the engine's worn out, the paint's peeling, the interior's bad? Can you imagine how long that's going to take? So this is why I want to encourage you. Any of you watching this series, suddenly you think, man, I got to get one of these old diesels. They're going up in value, and they're going up in value quite rapidly, particularly in this condition. You can still get them for, you know, $1,000, $2,000, but buyer beware. I recommend you pay a little more and get a nice one, and particularly make sure it has a good, strong engine before you drag it home. Or, as I've said so many times, the honeymoon will be over quickly, or there's nothing more expensive than a cheap Mercedes.